Well, thank you, Stuart. Well, kids, quick, cover your ears. They are talking about you, or to hear some in Congress tell it, what big tech CEOs are doing to you. Tough day for the heads of TikTok and Meta and X and a bunch of others, and whether they exploit kids and don't do enough to protect kids. Now, a lot of these guys' stocks have been getting hammered lately, less magnificent, shall we say, and today isn't helping them any. Elon Musk is not there, but as I said, the head of his X is, but we're getting his name will be coming up one way or the other. A whole lot of rumbling about that judge who slapped down Musk's $56 billion pay package at Tesla, a sign of more, well, pay policing to come, and maybe for some of these tech CEOs on Capitol Hill. Actually, it's been a tough few weeks, even months, when it comes to the electric vehicle makers in general. And doesn't Fisker founder Henrik Fisker know it? He is here to tell us why he isn't remotely worried about it, at any of it. But first, to this hearing that often morphed into and continues a whole lot of shouting, to Grady Trimble taking it all in. Grady.
Hey, Neil, lawmakers have been grilling the CEOs of the biggest social media platforms for the last 2 hours, specifically about child sexual exploitation on these programs and platforms, but also more broadly about how kids use social media and what protections are in place. You know, the CEOs have tried to tout safety features and parental controls that they've added to protect kids, but Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg downplayed social media's role in the mental health crisis in children in his opening statement. Listen.
Mental health is a complex issue, and the existing body of scientific work has not shown a causal link between using social media and young people having worse mental health outcomes.
The CEOs of Snap and X have endorsed specific pieces of bipartisan legislation that members of this committee, the Judiciary Committee, have introduced, but several of the other executives at Discord, TikTok, and Meta avoided questions about whether they support those specific bills or repealing Section 230, which broadly protects social media companies. Instead, those three executives say they support legislation and regulation related to their industry, but not those particular bills. You can tell that lawmakers are getting frustrated by big tech and its leaders.
Keep waiting on these guys to solve the problem. We're going to die waiting.
I'm so tired of this. It's been 28 years, since the internet. We haven't passed any of these bills because everyone's double talk, double talk. It's time to actually pass them. And the reason they haven't passed is because of the power of your company.
Senator John Cornyn spent some time questioning TikTok CEO Shou Chew about data storage and access to that data by TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance. A lot of lawmakers in the last hearing with Chew and in this one feel like he is being evasive when he's answering questions about that Chinese parent company. And Neil, some other news about TikTok broke today as Chew was heading into the hearing, and that's that Universal Music, which has artists like Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, and Bad Bunny. They're actually pulling their music from TikTok because they say their artists aren't getting enough of a cut from plays on that platform. Neil?
I did not know that. Grady, thank you very much. Grady Trimble following all of that in Capitol Hill. The worst is yet to come. Some parents who are recounting how their children died because of temptations that were provided on these social media sites. Carl Szabo joins us right now, the NetChoice Vice President, General Counsel, Professor of Internet Law at George Mason University, Scalia Law School. Carl, always good to have you. Where do you think these hearings are going? They're not the first on this parade. They're just the latest.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. This is a huge sideshow. Our kids are suffering from mental health problems. We locked them in their houses for 3 years during COVID. We are constantly telling them the world is going to end because of climate change, but scapegoating social media is not the answer. Mark Zuckerberg is not our kid's dad, and we shouldn't act like he is. So blaming social media for the raising of our children is absurd, and I would not expect Mark Zuckerberg to raise my kids, much in the same way I would not put Captain Crunch in charge of deciding what my kids eat. We are skipping over the responsibility and role of parents, and that's really the unfortunate part of this discussion.
You know what's interesting about it? Senator Klobuchar and Lindsey Graham were on the same page when it came to saying a lot of parents are overwhelmed, particularly those who've lost children or see their children sucked into this universe where getting their attention is next to impossible, and it goes to extremes quite clearly. But these companies are very worried about the prospect of being sued, and they like a world in which that's very hard to do, but that has got to change. What do you make of that?
So as a parent, I find it incredibly insulting every time I hear that parents are too dumb or too weak to raise our children. Parents have been raising our children since the dawn of man. And I know my kids and my family better than those politicians or Mark Zuckerberg. So we need to tell parents that, guess what, you can do it and take the phone away. Now, on the litigation liability front, absolutely. Anything that's illegal offline is illegal online. They've talked about child sexual abuse material. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, for example, expressly exempts it. And where we have seen the failure is less than 1% of all instances of child sexual abuse material even result in an investigation. So what we need to do is give law enforcement more tools and more power to actually go out and arrest the abusers rather than blame social media, who's already doing tens of millions of reports that just go unanswered.
Well, you know, it is odd to see the conservatives and the Republicans on the panel among the first to advocate, you know, a big brother playing a role, that is the companies or the government, you know, forcing the companies to have a role in this. And I get what you're saying. But I did find there was far more unanimity when it came to going after TikTok. That CEO, of course, who's always been a pinata every time he appears on the Hill, has to explain that China isn't policing everything he does and all the customers he has. But we know that China does do that. And we know it's written into Chinese corporate law that they have every intention of doing that. So where does that go?
You know, this is one of the challenges that TikTok faces. They're trying to prove a negative. They actually spent over $1.5 billion and actually are siloing all of the U.S. data with Oracle, an American company down in Texas. But they're stuck trying to prove a negative, trying to show that data is not being transferred. However, in the United States, the burden is on the prosecution. And what we need is lawmakers and accusers to actually come forth with the receipts, show the evidence before they start making the accusations.
That's well put, Carl. Very well put. Always good seeing you, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Carl Zabel, this attention on the big tech executives come as big tech investments are getting hammered today. The NASDAQ, when last I looked, was down about 1.5%. It isn't doing any better. And that